The world loves to talk about America, Russia, or China, but lurking just outside the spotlight is a force far deadlier than most realize. A military that doesn't need to roar to make nations tremble. Turkey's armed forces aren't just large, they're fast, they're adaptable, and they're quietly rewriting the forces of modern warfare. So how did a nation once reliant on imports become a weapons powerhouse almost overnight? Ranked consistently among the top 10 militaries on Earth and holding the title of NATO's second largest army, Turkey has transformed itself from a buyer of weapons into a builder of them, now producing more than 70% of its defense needs at home. From NATO missions to shadow wars in Syria, Libya, and beyond, Turkey's military is already shaping conflicts across continents. So how many countries on Earth can truly project power? How many can go toe-to-toe with the giants of modern warfare? Well, Turkey is one of them. When you look at the numbers, the scale of Turkey's military power becomes impossible to ignore. In the Global Firepower Index, Turkey ranks 9th out of 145 countries in 2025 with a power index score of 0.1902. A figure that places it in the same league as some of the world's most advanced militaries like France, Britain, and even Japan. The military power ranking places it 10th worldwide, locked in a dead heat with none other than France and the United Kingdom. But the real jaw-dropper isn't just Turkey's global placement. It's what happens when you zoom in on NATO. Behind the United States, the world's largest military alliance only has one other member with real bulk on the ground. It's Turkey. Think about that. Bigger than Germany, bigger than the UK, bigger than France. But how big are we talking? The Turkish Armed Forces field a combined 883,900 personnel. Out of that, over 355,000 are active soldiers right now, backed by another 378,700 in reserves, ready to be mobilized. The army alone accounts for more than 500,000 men and women in uniform, 518,900 to be exact. Add in 115,000 in the Air Force, 100,000 Navy personnel, and a hardened 150,000 paramilitary units, and you start to see why strategists call Turkey Europe's most formidable conventional military. So Turkey's commitment to military modernization is reflected in its record-breaking defense budgets. And right now, Turkey is pouring fuel on its military machine like never before. In 2025 alone, Ankara will spend a jaw-dropping $47 billion on defense and security, a 17.5% jump from the year before. That might sound like business as usual until you realize the shocking part. Just 2 years ago, Turkey's defense budget was only $16 billion. In other words, the country has nearly tripled its spending in 24 months. Also, SIPRI reports that Turkey's defense bill hit $25 billion in 2024, up 12% from 2023. Over the last decade, the country has more than doubled its spending with a 110% increase since 2015. Turkey now ranks 17th globally in military spending, up from 19th place just 1 year earlier. And unlike some NATO members who barely scrape by their alliance commitments, Turkey has blasted past the famous 2% of GDP benchmark, already sitting at 2.09%. Ankara has also signed on to NATO's ambitious plan to hit 5% of GDP by 2035. If they stick to it, Turkey won't just be a regional heavyweight, it'll be a global one. So, Turkey's ground forces represent one of NATO's most substantial conventional armies. On the ground, it fields over 2,600 main battle tanks led by upgraded Leopard 2 and M60 models. Supporting them are more than 9,000 armored fighting vehicles and over 1,200 artillery systems, a mix of towed and self-propelled guns capable of delivering sustained firepower across any front. Turkey's indigenous tank development has reached advanced stages with the Altay main battle tank program, which represents the country's first domestically designed third-generation plus main battle tank. Equipped with a 120mm smoothbore gun, composite armor, and active protection systems, the Altay reflects Ankara's drive to field armor that can compete with and potentially outmatch modern adversaries. This ambition extends to artillery as well. Turkey's T-155 Fırtına self-propelled howitzer, already in mass production, gives the army long-range, rapid fire support. Meanwhile, domestic manufacturers like FNSS and BMC continue turning out a steady pipeline of new armored vehicles, gradually reducing reliance on foreign suppliers. This is a ground force that isn't just large by NATO standards, but increasingly self-sufficient, blending size with growing technological independence. Turkey's Air Force remains one of its strongest pillars of military capability. If you're enjoying this deep dive, please like the video and consider subscribing to our channel. Your support helps us bring more global insights. Now, back to the video. The country operates more than 1,000 aircraft, with the backbone of its fighter fleet built around modernized F-16C or D variants. These jets are currently undergoing avionics upgrades to extend their service life and maintain competitiveness against regional rivals. Although Turkey was removed from the F-35 program after its purchase of the Russian S-400 missile system, it has shifted focus toward domestic innovation. The most ambitious project is the TAITFX, officially named KAAN, a fifth-generation stealth fighter designed to rival advanced platforms in Europe and Asia. The program is still in development, with initial deployment targeted for the 2030s, signaling Turkey's intent to reduce reliance on foreign aircraft. Where Turkey truly stands apart, however, is in its UAV technology. The Bayraktar TB2 has logged over 1 million operational flight hours and has been combat tested in multiple theaters, including Syria, Libya, Nagorno-Karabakh, and Ukraine. Its effectiveness against armored vehicles, artillery, and even air defense systems has changed modern battlefield dynamics. Turkey has also expanded its drone industry beyond the TB2, producing larger and more advanced UAVs like the Akinci, which can carry heavier payloads and integrate advanced munitions. Looking ahead, Turkey is also investing heavily in jet-powered drones. Projects like the TAI Anka 3 and the Bayraktar Kuzulelma are designed to push UAV technology closer to the role of manned combat aircraft. These systems aim to deliver faster speeds, stealthier profiles, and advanced strike options, positioning Turkey as one of the few nations developing a full spectrum of drone warfare platforms. With exports to more than 30 countries, Turkey is now one of the world's top drone exporters, making UAVs not only a cornerstone of its military strategy, but also a tool of geopolitical influence. Turkey's naval modernization mirrors its ambition to dominate the seas around it. Today, the Turkish Navy fields a fleet of 215 vessels, including 18 submarines, making it one of the largest naval forces in the Eastern Mediterranean. Ongoing programs include the Ada-class corvettes for coastal defense, the more versatile Istanbul-class frigates, and the ambitious TF-2000 class destroyers designed for advanced air defense. At IDEF 2025, Turkey signed contracts for its first indigenous TF-2000 destroyer, with construction already underway and a planned launch in 2028. Delivery is scheduled for 2030, marking a milestone in Ankar's pursuit of self-reliance at sea. Also, work has begun on a new generation of indigenous fast attack craft, set to replace older German-designed models still in service, and in its most daring move yet, Turkey has initiated plans for a national aircraft carrier program. A step that, if realized, would dramatically expand its ability to project power across the region. Few countries have managed to rewrite their defense story as dramatically as Turkey. Just 2 decades ago, Ankara was almost entirely dependent on foreign suppliers for its military hardware. Today, more than 70% of its defense needs are met domestically, a remarkable leap for a nation once considered a customer rather than a producer. The transformation is powered by a new generation of Turkish defense giants. Aselsan dominates in electronics and radar. Roketsan specializes in missiles. Baykar became a global brand through drones. Turkish Aerospace Industries builds aircraft, and FNSS supplies armored vehicles. Together, these firms produce everything from assault rifles and anti-tank systems to long-range cruise and ballistic missiles. This domestic strength has also turned into global influence. Turkish defense exports now exceed $5 billion annually. Its partners range from close allies like Azerbaijan and Qatar to strategic collaborations with Pakistan and other non-NATO states, expanding Turkey's reach well beyond its immediate region. IDF 2025 offered a glimpse of just how far this industry has come. Among the highlights were the Gayzap and Hayalet-2 aerial bombs, precision-guided munitions developed entirely at home with no foreign components. Perhaps even more significant are the ramjet-powered air-to-air missiles Gokhan and Gokbora, designed to rival Europe's Meteor and China's PL series, signaling Turkey's intent to compete at the cutting edge of missile technology. What was once a dependency has become a form of leverage. By turning its defense industry into a pillar of both national security and foreign policy, Turkey has gained something even more valuable than weapons: the ability to act with greater independence in a world where alliances are shifting and reliability is never guaranteed. Few NATO members have tested their equipment and doctrine as frequently under live fire conditions as the Turkish Armed Forces. Unlike militaries that mostly train for theoretical wars, Turkey has spent the past 2 decades fighting real ones across multiple theaters against a variety of opponents. From cross-border campaigns in Syria, Operations Euphrates Shield 2016, Olive Branch 2018, and Peace Spring 2019, to expeditionary involvement in Libya's civil war and crucial support to Azerbaijan in the 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh conflict, Turkey has accumulated combat experience unmatched by most regional powers. Operation Spring Shield in Syria 2020 particularly showcased Turkish indigenous weapons effectiveness. Using domestically produced Anka drones, TB2 UAVs, and Coral electronic warfare systems, Turkish forces reportedly neutralized 151 tanks, 47 howitzers, 3 aircraft, 8 helicopters, and eliminated 3,000 Syrian regime troops. This operation demonstrated Turkey's ability to conduct sophisticated military operations using entirely indigenous systems. Turkey has also launched its comprehensive Steel Dome integrated air defense system, a multi-layered shield designed to counter threats from drones to ballistic missiles. The system integrates 47 Aselsan delivered vehicles worth $460 million and provides protection across different ranges and altitudes. The Steel Dome includes short-range systems like Korkut and Gökdeniz, medium-range Hisar A+ and Hisar O+ missiles, and longer-range systems including the indigenous Cyper air defense missiles. This comprehensive air defense network demonstrates Turkey's commitment to protecting both military assets and civilian infrastructure. Turkey's geography multiplies its military influence far beyond its borders. By controlling the Istanbul Strait and the Dardanelles, Turkey commands the only maritime passage between the Black Sea and the Mediterranean, an essential choke point for NATO naval movements, Russian fleet access, energy transport, and global grain shipments. On land, Turkey sits at the crossroads of 3 volatile regions: the Middle East, the Caucasus, and the Balkans. This positioning makes the country not just a regional power, but a strategic buffer for European security, able to project influence in multiple theaters simultaneously. Turkey's NATO role further amplifies its significance. Hosting critical alliance bases, including the Incirlik Air Base, Turkey is central to US and NATO operations across the Middle East and Black Sea. It also participates in NATO's nuclear sharing program, with an estimated 50 US nuclear warheads stationed on Turkish soil. Together, these factors make Turkey not just a frontline state, but an indispensable hub of NATO strategy in Eurasia. For all its impressive capabilities, Turkey's military still carries notable constraints. Unlike other major powers, Turkey does not possess its own nuclear arsenal, relying instead on NATO's nuclear sharing arrangement. It also lacks strategic bombers and intercontinental range missiles, the kind of long-range deterrence that define global military heavyweights. On top of this, political frictions with Western allies have created hurdles. Ankara's defense ties with NATO have been strained by an official ban from European states and its high-profile expulsion from the F-35 fighter program after acquiring Russian S-400 air defense systems. Yet, these limitations have become a catalyst rather than a crippling weakness. Turkey has doubled down on indigenous weapons development, from drones and fighter jets to missile systems, and forged new partnerships beyond the West. In many ways, these pressures have accelerated its drive towards strategic autonomy, making Turkey less dependent on outside powers than at any point in its modern history. Turkey's military stands as one of the greatest modernization success stories of the 21st century. Ranked as the 9th most powerful armed force in the world and fielding NATO's second largest standing army, Ankara has transformed itself from a regional player into a global military force with real strategic weight. With more than 70% defense self-sufficiency, Turkey is no longer just buying power. It is building it. Turkey has effectively pioneered a new model of middle power military development, one that allows it to punch far above its economic weight. In an era defined by great power rivalry, Turkey is no longer just a buffer state or a regional actor. It has become a decisive military power, one that no serious global security calculation can afford to ignore. If you found this analysis valuable, please consider subscribing to our channel for more deep dives into geopolitics. We would love to hear your thoughts. Drop your comments below and let us know what you think. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.